The locker room door slammed open like a gunshot, and there he was, David Harlan, 16 and unbreakable, staring down the pack of snarling jocks who'd just cornered his best friend against the cold metal benches. "Touch him again," David growled, his voice a raw blade cutting through the steam of post-practice showers. "And I'll make sure every one of you regrets the day you thought you could play God." The air thickened with the stench of sweat and fear, but it was Joseph's wide-eyed gasp that hit David hardest, a sound like shattering glass that echoed in his chest long after the fists started flying. Blood trickled from David's split lip as he shoved past the ringleader, Brody Klein, whose meaty hand still clenched Joseph's collar like a noose. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting jagged shadows that danced like demons on the tiled floor. David had known this moment was coming. Whispers in the hallways, graffiti scrawled on his truck in the parking lot, the way teachers averted their eyes when he walked by. Small-town Ohio didn't forgive difference. It buried it. But seeing Joseph's face, pale and bruised, freckles standing out like stars against a storm cloud, ignited something feral in David. He grabbed Brody's wrist, twisting just enough to hear the crack of bone meeting resistance, and the room exploded into chaos. By the time the coaches hauled them apart, David's knuckles were raw, his heart pounding a war drum. Joseph slumped against the lockers, whispering, "Why'd you do that? They're gonna kill us both now." David's response was a fierce, trembling kiss, right there, in the reek of Axe body spray and betrayal, tasting salt and copper, sealing a promise neither boy had dared voice until the world forced their hand. As sirens wailed in the distance, David pulled back, his green eyes locking onto Joseph's hazel ones. "Because you're worth it," he said simply. "And so am I." The fallout hit like a Midwest blizzard. Suspensions, parent-teacher conferences that felt like inquisitions, and a school board meeting where David's name became shorthand for the problem. Harlan High, nestled in the Rust Belt ghost town of Milford, Ohio, was the kind of place where Friday nights revolved around pigskin and piety, and Sunday sermons preached love while the congregation clutched their Bibles like shields against the sinners next door. David's family lived on the edge of it all. His mom gone to cancer when he was 10, leaving him and his dad, Tom Harlan, in a sagging ranch house with a yard full of rusted car parts and unspoken grief. Tom was a mechanic, broad-shouldered and quiet, the sort of man who fixed transmissions before dawn and nursed a six-pack after dusk. He never said much about David's phase, as the town gossips called it, but he'd started leaving the local paper's opinion section open to articles on equality, folded just so on the kitchen table. David noticed, but never pushed. Vulnerability was a luxury they couldn't afford. That night, after the principal's call yanked Tom from the garage, father and son sat across the formica table, the clock ticking like a bomb. David's hands shook as he recounted the fight, the kiss, the way Brody's crew had jeered "faggot" like it was a battle cry. Tom's face was granite, jaw set, but his eyes, storm gray like David's, held a flicker of something softer. "You protect what's yours," he said finally, voice gravelly from years of chain-smoking Camels. "That's Harlan blood. No hugs, no tears, just a nod and a fresh pack of ice for David's knuckles." But as David climbed the stairs to his room, posters of indie bands peeling from the walls, he heard Tom on the phone in the den, murmuring low, "Yeah, it's bad. But he's tough. We'll handle it." David pressed his ear to the door, heart swelling. Who was we? School the next week was a minefield. Joseph, with his mop of curly brown hair and lanky frame that made him look like a colt ready to bolt, stuck to David's side like glue. They'd been friends since kindergarten, trading comic books under the bleachers, but the kiss had rewritten their story in electric ink. Stolen moments in the art room, Joseph's fingers tracing David's palm while sketching charcoal portraits, or behind the dumpster after lunch, lips brushing in hurried defiance. It was romance born of rebellion, sweet and sharp as stolen whiskey from Tom's cabinet. But the town closed in. Notes in lockers. Go back to hell. Tires slashed on David's '92 Ford pickup. And then the whispers turned to shouts when Mrs. Hargrove, the biology teacher with a cross necklace that could double as a weapon, pulled David aside after class. "This behavior," she hissed, "it's a distraction. From God. From your future." David met her gaze. Chin up. "My future's mine, ma'am. Not yours to pray away." She recoiled as if slapped. But the damage was done by Friday. A petition circulated to clean up the school. Signatures from parents who'd never set foot in a pride parade. Joseph cracked first. They were at the quarry's edge that weekend, skipping stones across the murky water, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones. "I can't do this," he said, voice breaking. "My folks. They're talking boarding school. East Coast. Away from here. Away from you." David's stone sank with a plop, heavy as lead. He turned, cupping Joseph's face, thumbs brushing away tears that caught the dying sunlight. "Then fight with me. Don't run." Their kiss was desperate, bodies pressing close against the chill wind, hands roaming under flannel shirts, mapping territories no map could chart. Joseph's laugh was watery. "You're crazy, Harlan. Beautifully crazy." But in his eyes, David saw the fracture lines spreading. Monday brought the storm. Assembly in the gym, bleachers packed with restless teens, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and adolescent angst. Principal Whitaker, a balding relic with a tie too tight for his neck, cleared his throat into the mic. "We've had incidents. Reminders that this is a place of learning, not indulgence." The word hung like smoke, and Brody's crew hooted from the back row. David stood, heart slamming, Joseph's hand squeezing his under the row of seats. "Indulgence," David called out, voice steady despite the roar in his ears. "You mean love? Yeah. That's a sin, all right, in a town too scared to feel it." Chaos erupted. Chairs scraping, shouts rising, Whitaker's face purpling as he banged the gavel. Security dragged David out, Joseph's pleas lost in the din. In the office, alone with the ticking clock, David traced the scars on his knuckles, wondering if this was the hill he'd die on. The door opened, and there was Tom, grease-streaked overalls, eyes like thunderheads. "Heard about the assembly," he said, dropping into the chair beside him. "You got balls, kid." David searched his face for judgment. Found none. "Dad, Tom cut him off with a hand on his shoulder, grip firm as welded steel. "I'm proud. Always have been." It wasn't poetry, but it was everything, a quiet anchor in the gale. As they walked out together, protesters milling on the lawn with signs, "Protect our kids." David felt the weight lift, just a fraction. But Joseph was waiting by the truck, backpack slung low, eyes red-rimmed. "They're sending me away," he whispered. "Tomorrow." David's world tilted, the ground swallowing him whole. He pulled Joseph into a crushing hug, breathing him in soap and earth and heartbreak. "This isn't goodbye," he vowed against Joseph's hair. "It's a detour." But as the taillights of Joseph's parents' minivan faded into the dusk, David knew detours in Milford rarely led home. Winter clamped down on Milford like a vice, snow piling against the Harlan windowsills in drifts that muffled the world's cruelty but amplified the ache inside. David spent nights staring at the ceiling, Joseph's absence a ghost in the twin bed across the room. Empty now, sheets folded neat as a surrender. School dragged on, a gauntlet of averted gazes and Brody's smirks. But David armored up, hoodies layered thick, earbuds blasting the Nationals' brooding anthems, a notebook filled with sketches of Joseph's face, half-smile captured in pencil strokes that bled determination. Tom noticed the silences, the way David picked at his burgers without tasting them. One blustery evening, as they shoveled the drive by the yellow bug light, Tom paused, breath fogging the air. "That boy, Joseph, he's a good one." "Rare." David leaned on his shovel, snowflakes catching in his lashes. "Yeah. Too good for this dump," Tom grunted, heaving another scoop. Dumps got treasures if you dig deep. It was the closest he'd come to advice. But David clung to it like a lifeline, replaying Joseph's last words at the quarry. "Write me. Every day. So I know you're still fighting." Letters became their tether. David scrawled on lined paper from the gas station. Joseph's typed on his new school's laptop, postmarked from some preppy Connecticut academy that sounded like a prison for the privileged. David's were raw poetry. The sting of a homophobic slur in the cafeteria, the thrill of spray painting "equal" on the water tower under moonless skies, the quiet rebellion of holding hands with an imaginary Joseph during chem lab. Joseph's replies were lifelines, tales of ivy-covered walls and secret hookups in dorm stairwells, but always ending with "Miss your fire, Harlan. Don't let them dim it." Spring thawed the ice but not the rift. Prom loomed like a bad joke, tiaras and tuxes for a night of straight-laced fairy tales. David had no intention of going until Mia, the goth girl from art class who'd become an unlikely ally after witnessing the locker room brawl, cornered him in the hall. "Screw him," she said, black lipstick cracking into a grin. "We're crashing. You, me, and whatever statement you want to make." Her eyes sparkled with mischief, a far cry from the pity he'd braced for. David hesitated, then nodded. "Deal. But it's gotta hurt." He borrowed Tom's old suit, navy wool that hung loose on his frame, smelling faintly of motor oil and resolve. Mia showed up in ripped fishnets and a corset embroidered with rainbows, her arm looped through David's like a shield. The gym pulsed with bass-heavy pop and the scent of cheap punch, fairy lights strung like nooses overhead. Whispers rippled as they entered. Brody's crew clustered by the DJ booth, eyes narrowing like wolves scenting blood. David ignored them, leading Mia to the floor, their steps defiant amid the swaying couples. Halfway through a slow song, it happened. Brody sauntered over, breath hot with beer snuck from a flask. His date, a cheerleader named Lacey, trailing like a shadow. "Slumming it, Harlan," Brody sneered, voice slurred. "Or just here to recruit?" The music dipped, heads turning. David's pulse thrummed, but he stepped forward, chin lifted. "Nah. Here to dance. You should try it. Might loosen that stick up your ass." Laughter bubbled from the crowd, tentative at first, then bolder. Mia hooped, spinning him into a twirl that drew cheers. Brody's face twisted, ugly with rage. He lunged, fist cocked, but David was ready, dodging left, countering with a shove that sent Brody stumbling into the punch bowl. Crimson liquid splashed like arterial spray, staining the floor in sticky accusation. Chaos bloomed, chaperones shouting, girls shrieking, Brody roaring as he scrambled up, dripping and furious. "You're dead, freak!" But the crowd parted not for him, but for David, some clapping, others filming on phones, the tide shifting in the glow of strobe lights. Security swarmed, hauling Brody away while David stood panting, Mia's hand on his back. "Hero status," she murmured. But as the adrenaline ebbed, doubt crept in. Joseph's letter that morning had been terse. "Things weird here. Guy in my hall. Complicated. Still yours." The prom victory felt hollow, a sugar rush before the crash. Home was quiet, Tom nursing coffee at the table, radio humming classic rock. David slumped into a chair, recounting the night in bursts. Tom's lips twitched, a rare almost smile. "Sounds like you owned it. Proud of you, son." He slid an envelope across the table, postmarked Connecticut. Joseph's handwriting, shaky. David tore it open, heart seizing. Inside, "David, I'm sorry. I kissed him. The guy from Hall. It was stupid, lonely. But it's you I see when I close my eyes. Forgive me, Jay." The words blurred. Betrayal a knife twist. David crushed the paper, tears hot on his cheeks. "He cheated," he choked out. Tom didn't flinch, just poured him a splash of whiskey. First legal one, a rite of passage. People screw up. Doesn't make 'em monsters. Or you less. They sat in silence. The clocks tick a metronome to healing. David drained the glass, fire blooming in his gut. "What if I can't forgive?" Tom met his gaze, steady. "Then you learn to. Or you walk. But don't let it break you." Summer scorched Milford, humidity thick as regret. David threw himself into odd jobs. Mowing lawns, flipping burgers at Dairy Dream, muscles hardening, skin tanning to bronze under relentless sun. Joseph's letters tapered, excuses piling like unpaid bills. Exams, family trips, that complicated guy named Ethan. David wrote back once, terse, "Hurts a teacher. Hope you learn from it." Then silence, a chasm widening. But new sparks ignited. At the county fair, amid cotton candy haze and Ferris wheel creaks, David met Riley, a transfer from Cleveland, all sharp wit and tattooed forearms, volunteering at the LGBTQ booth with pamphlets and pride pins. Riley's laugh was infectious, blue eyes crinkling when David quipped about the funnel cakes being straighter than this town's politics. They talked for hours, Riley sharing stories of city marches and underground clubs, David unburdening the weight of small-town isolation. One night, under star-pricked skies by the river, Riley leaned in, breath warm. "You're stronger than you know, Harlan." Their kiss was tentative, exploratory, Riley's stubble rasping against David's smooth jaw, hands gentle on hips. It wasn't Joseph. It was possibility, a bridge over the hurt. But as Riley's truck rumbled away, David touched his lips, tasting freedom laced with ache. Joseph's ghost lingered, unbanished. August brought the rally. News had spread, national headlines about Ohio's gay fight, thanks to those prom videos going viral on TikTok. Activists descended on Milford, rainbow flags snapping in the breeze outside Harlan High. David was front and center, megaphone in hand, voice cracking but clear. "We won't hide. We won't break. This is our home too." The crowd swelled. Locals, out-of-towners, even a few repentant faces from Brody's crew. Tom stood at the edge, arms crossed, a silent sentinel. As chants faded to murmurs, Joseph appeared, like a hallucination, backpack slung, eyes haunted. "I couldn't stay away," he said, voice raw. Ethan was a mistake. A big one. David froze, pulse roaring. Forgiveness warred with fury, love with loss. "Prove it," he said finally, stepping closer. Joseph's nod was solemn, a vow unspoken. They walked off together, hands brushing, the crowd's cheers a distant hum. But in David's pocket, Riley's number burned, a reminder that paths forked and choices cut deep. Fall semester hit like a freight train, leaves turning Milford streets to fire and David's resolve to tempered steel. With Joseph back, enrolled at the community college across the river, crashing on David's floor when dorm curfews bit, they rebuilt in fragments. Lazy mornings tangled in sheets, Joseph's head on David's chest, heartbeat sinking to the rhythm of second chances. It was tentative romance, laced with "I love yous," whispered like secrets, hands interlacing during drives down Route 23, windows down, wind whipping confessions free. But trust was a fragile rebuild. Joseph's phone buzzed with Ethan's texts, blocked, but the ghosts echoed. One night, after a bonfire party where cheap beer flowed and Joseph's exes from Connecticut lurked in the shadows, David snapped. "You still talk to him?" he demanded, voice sharp as shattered glass, the flames casting Joseph's face in flickering accusation. Joseph recoiled, curls disheveled. "Deleted everything. Swear." But doubt festered, a slow poison. David stormed off into the woods, branches clawing like accusations, collapsing against a tree to sob raw, ugly heaves that shook him to the core. Why did love feel like war? Tom found him there, flashlight beam cutting the dark like judgment. Rough night, no lectures, just a thermos of coffee and a sit on the damp earth. David spilled it all, the jealousy, the fear of losing Joseph again, the way Milford's stares still branded him. Tom listened, nodding slow. "Love's messy, son. Like overhauling an engine, parts don't fit clean first try. But you torque it right, it purrs." He paused, staring into the fire's embers. "Your ma. She taught me that. Fought her own battles with the bottle after chemo. I stood by, quiet. Sometimes that's enough." David's breath hitched. Mom's photo on the mantel, smiling fierce, he'd forgotten her strength mirrored his own. Revelations rippled outward. The school board caved under pressure. New anti-bullying policy. Mandatory sensitivity training. Headlines in the Cleveland Plain Dealer dubbing David Milford's Maverick. Interviews followed. Local news crews in the Harlan kitchen. Tom hovering in the background with a proud grunt. Joseph's arm around David's waist on camera. A united front. But fame's glow hid cracks. Brody, out on probation after the prom assault, cornered David in the Dairy Dream Lot 1 shift. "Think you're hot shit now?" he spat, breath sour. "Town forgets. You'll always be the queer kid." David's retort was ice. Better queer than coward. But the words lingered, a barb in the ribs. Deeper betrayal brewed at home or what felt like it. Tom's garage buddy, Uncle Ray, the one who'd barbecued every 4th and called David champ, showed his colors at Thanksgiving. Turkey carved, pies cooling, Ray slurred over whiskey. All this gay pride crap, ruining good boys like you. The table froze, forks clinking to plates. Joseph stiffened beside David. But Tom? He set his glass down deliberate, voice low thunder. Ray. My house. My rules. You got a problem with my son. Doors there. Ray blinked, red-faced, mumbling apologies before shuffling out into the sleet. The silence afterward was electric. Joseph's grateful squeeze under the table. David's eyes meeting Tom's in silent thanks. Always behind you, Tom murmured later, washing dishes side by side. It was the closest to poetry David ever heard from him. Winter holidays brought magic and menace. David and Joseph escaped to Cleveland for a weekend. First real getaway. A cramped Airbnb in Ohio City's buzz with fairy lights and vinyl records spinning Sufjan Stevens. They wandered the West Side Market, fingers laced amid spice scents and vendor calls, shared gelato under Christmas garlands, melting sweet on tongues. Nights were fevered, bodies entwined on a lumpy futon. Joseph's moans a symphony against David's neck. Explorations tender and urgent, mapping scars both seen and unseen. You're my anchor, Joseph breathed, tracing David's collarbone. David believed him. In those stolen hours, the world shrinking to skin and size. Back in Milford, reality bit. Joseph's mom, a brittle woman with perm-set hair and a Bible app on her phone, issued an ultimatum over eggnog. Choose, family or that lifestyle. Joseph's voice cracked on the call, audible from the kitchen where David eavesdropped, heart in throat. It's not a choice, Mom. It's me. Click. Dissonance echo hollowed the house. David held him through the sobs, rocking like a child, whispering, "We'll make our own family." But the fracture ran deep. Joseph's smiles brittle as thin ice. Crisis peaked in January, a blizzard burying Milford in white oblivion. Power flickered, roads closed, isolation amplifying every fear. David woke to Joseph's side of the bed cold. Note on the pillow. Needed air. Back soon. Love you. Panic clawed. Memories of Ethan's complications surged. David bundled up, trudging through drifts to the quarry, flashlight piercing the storm like a desperate prayer. There Joseph on the edge, coat flapping, staring into the void where they'd first confessed. What the hell? David yelled over the gale, grabbing his arm. Joseph's eyes were wild, tears freezing on lashes. I can't breathe here. The stairs, the whispers, it's suffocating. Maybe Ethan's right. Maybe I don't belong with you. With anyone. Betrayal's second wave crashed. Not just the kiss, but the doubt it unearthed. David yanked him close, shouting into the wind. You belong with me because you choose it, every day. Or what's the point? They collapsed together, snow soaking through denim, Joseph's sobs muffled against David's chest. I'm scared, he admitted. Of losing you. Of being enough. The storm broke at dawn, pink light gilding the treetops. They stumbled home, thawing by the fire Tom stoked without question. Mugs of cocoa steaming, blankets piled high. Storms pass, Tom said gruffly, tossing logs. What matters is who you weather 'em with. Joseph nodded, leaning into David, the crisis forging them tighter. But whispers of fracture lingered, trust, once shattered, reformed with hairline cracks. Spring bloomed defiant, tulips pushing through Milford's cracked sidewalks, mirroring David's resurgence. He organized the first GSA meeting at Harlan High. 20 kids crammed into the library, sharing stories under rainbow banners Mia hand-stitched. Joseph co-facilitated, voice steady as he recounted his disownment, drawing nods and hugs. Brody even slunk in once, anonymous in the back, mumbling about figuring shit out, progress, incremental as thawing earth. Yet undercurrents swirled. Riley texted sporadically, "Miss your spark," a temptation David ignored, loyalty his compass. One balmy evening, post-meeting, Joseph pulled him onto the roof, city lights twinkling distant. "Marry me," he said half-joking, sliding a twist tie from a bread bag onto David's finger. Laughter bubbled, but David's someday held weight. Visions of Vegas chapels or quiet courthouses, rings glinting like promises kept. Their lovemaking that night was reverent, bodies a testament to survival, Joseph's whispers of forever etching into David's soul. But fate, cruel jester, had one more twist cued. Tom's annual checkup revealed shadows on the lungs, smoker's curse. Doc said, "Stage 2. The diagnosis landed like a sucker punch, Tom waving it off with beats rusting out early. David raged in private, Joseph's arms his harbor. But resolve hardened. Fight for tomorrow, because today was borrowed. Summer 26 scorched Ohio's veins, heat waves shimmering off blacktop like fever dreams. David's world narrowed to hospital vigils and grease monkey shifts. Tom's chemo sessions slotted between carburetor rebuilds, his frame shrinking under flannel shirts that hung like defeat. Joseph stepped up seamless, driving Tom to appointments, stocking the fridge with protein shakes, his presence a bomb David hadn't known he craved. "We're in this," Joseph said one humid night, as they sat on the porch swing creaking in the breeze, fireflies winking like conspirators. David's hand found his, fingers threading automatic. "Yeah. We are." Milford buzzed with reluctant change, the GSA's influence rippling. A mural of diverse hands linked splashed across the water tower. David's design executed by community volunteers. Brody contributed paint, silent redemption in broad strokes. But progress bred backlash. Anonymous flyers tacked to poles, Satan's rainbow agenda. One singed David's truck tires in the night, acrid smoke waking the house. Tom, bald now under a trucker cap, gripped David's shoulder at the firehouse report. "Hate's loud 'cause it's losing. Keep pushing." Romance deepened in the margins, picnics by the river, Joseph's head in David's lap as he read aloud from dog-eared Kerouac, words weaving dreams of road trips west. Intimacy evolved, less frantic, more profound. Lazy Sundays in bed, sunlight slanting through blinds, Joseph's fingers tracing chemoport scars on David's arm. No, Tom's, but the fear mirrored. "You're my safe harbor," David murmured once. Post-climax haze, Joseph's laugh soft against his temple. "And you're the storm I chase." Betrayal's shadow loomed unexpected. From Mia, of all people. She'd risen as GSA co-president, her fierce advocacy landing her a scholarship to Oberlin. But whispers reached David, Mia, drunk at a house party, spilling club secrets to Brody's crew for street cred. Joseph's ex, Ethan, factored in, texts resurfacing via Mia's loose lips, old wounds ripped anew. Confrontation came in the art room, paints drying on palettes like blood accusations. Why? David demanded, voice fracturing. Mia's eyeliner ran black tears. I was scared. Thought it'd make me fit in. God. David. I'm sorry. Joseph's rage was quieter, a cold withdrawal that chilled their trio's bond. Forgiveness came hard-won, over late-night drives with windows cracked, wind exorcising ghosts. People falter, Tom advised from his recliner, oxygen mask fogging. Like engines seizing, tune 'em up, they run smoother. Mia stayed, atoned through murals and megaphones, but Trust's mosaic held new grout lines. August swelled with Tom's milestone, scans clear, a remission roar that echoed through the house. Celebration was low-key, backyard barbecue, Joseph's mom absent but a tentative card arriving. Proud of your strength. Ray returned too, sober 6 months. Handshake firm with David. Owe you an apology, champ. Meant it wrong. Tom's nod sealed it. Family. Flawed and mending. Emboldened, David proposed a road trip, California-bound. Joseph's beater Civic packed with coolers and cassettes. Tom's blessing a full tank and drive safe. Love yous. Route 66 unspooled like freedom's ribbon. Diner stops in Illinois prairies. Joseph's hand on David's thigh over gear shifts. Motels with neon buzz and beds that sagged under their weight. In Arizona's Red Rock canyons, they hiked to a vista, sweat slick and breathless. Joseph's back against a boulder as David kissed down his chest. Dust and desire mingling. Forever starts here, Joseph gasped. Legs wrapping, the world vast and theirs. But detours tested. A flat tire in New Mexico's nowhere, stranding them under merciless sun. As David jacked the car, tools clattering, Joseph's phone rang. Ethan, voice slurred from 3 states away. Miss you. Come back. The call ended abrupt, but fallout brewed. David wiped grease from hands. Eyes stormy. You didn't tell him we're done? Joseph's face crumpled. Blocked him months ago. Swear. Doubt flared. Old inferno. They drove in silence to the next town. Motel check-in terse. Bodies side by side but miles apart. Reconciliation ignited in the desert night. Stars carpet overhead. Joseph's tears hot on David's skin as they stripped bare on a blanket. I choose you. Every time, Joseph vowed. Thrusts deliberate. Eyes locked in raw vulnerability. David's release was cathartic. Sobs mingling with moans. Betrayal's chains snapping. Dawn found them entwined. Renewed. LA welcomed with sprawl and shimmer. Santa Monica Pier at sunset. Cotton candy dissolving on tongues. Joseph's laughter free as gulls wheeling. They crashed with Riley, now a barista in WeHo. His apartment a rainbow riot of posters and plants. Awkward hugs bridged past flirtations. Riley's glad you two made it genuine over vegan tacos. Nights blurred. Drag shows in West Hollywood. Joseph's all-lit face under strobe lights. David's arm possessive around his waist. Hikes in Griffith Park. City sprawl below like conquered kingdoms. Homecoming tested the glow. Milford's chill nipped at golden tans. Tom's health holding but fatigue etching lines deeper. Joseph's community college classes ramped. Stress fraying edges, late nights studying. David's shifts overlapping. Intimacy squeezed to hurried kisses. Cracks showed. A forgotten anniversary. Joseph snapped, I'm trying, echoing Tom's warnings on patience. Climax crashed mid-October. Homecoming game under floodlights. Harlan High's field a mud churn of glory and grit. David, reluctantly roped into the halftime speech by the GSA, stood mic in hand. Crowd hushed. We came here outcast. Feared. But look, we're here. Loving loud. Cheers erupted. Joseph's proud beam from the stands a beacon. But as David descended, Brody approached, not with fists, but extended hand. Respect, man. For real. Grip firm. A truce sealed in sweat and stadium roar. Post-game party at Mia's, bonfire crackling. Beers cracked. Joseph's buzz loose. Ethan crashed it, driven from Cleveland on a whim, face gaunt with regret. Talk? He begged Joseph, eyes pleading. Chaos splintered, shouts. Joseph's shove. We're done. David's restraint fraying as Ethan lunged verbal daggers. He'll leave you, like I did. Small-town boys break easy. Fists clenched. David hauled Joseph away. Truck tires spinning gravel to escape. Storms I hit the quarry. Rain lashing. Lightning fracturing skies. Why's he here? David roared. Betrayals floodgate bursting. Joseph's confession tumbled. I reached out. Once. To end it clean. Lightning illuminated Fury's mask. You promised. David's shove sent Joseph stumbling. Ankle twisting in mud. Regret instant. David knelt. Apologies pouring. But Joseph recoiled. I can't keep hurting you. He limped away. Thunder masking sobs. Leaving David alone with the deluge. Soaked to soul. Days blurred to gray, Joseph ghosting. Texts unread. Tom's worried glances over breakfast. David hollowed. Work a numb blur. GSA meetings led on autopilot. Mia mediated. Joseph's note delivered. Need space. Love you still. Space yawned like abyss. Tom's intervention came garage-bound. Tools down. Ice piercing. Go get him. Or lose him. Wisdom raw. David drove to Joseph's dorm. Heart hammering. Door cracked. Joseph's face haggard. I'm done chasing shadows, David said. Ethan's past. Milford's now. Us future. Choose. Joseph's collapse into arms was surrender. Kiss salt stung. Forgiveness a dam breaking. You, he whispered. Always you. November's frost etched Milford's windows with lace. But warmth bloomed inward. David and Joseph's recommitment a hearth fire stoked slow. Counseling sessions at the rec center. Mandated post-rally but embraced. Peeled layers. Joseph's abandonment fears from his mom's rejection. David's armor forged in mom's loss and town's barbs. We're not broken, Joseph said one session. Hand over David's. Just bent. Therapist nodded. But it was their afterwalks. Hand in hand down leaf-strewn streets. Steam from cider cups rising that mended deepest. Tom's remission held, granting him vigor for small rebellions, volunteering at the food bank, chatting up the LGBTQ youth group with gruff yarns of nom and second chances. One evening, as snow dusted the yard, he called David to the den, old photo albums spread. Mom's laugh frozen in sepia. She was proud of you, you know. Saw the fighter early. Tom's voice thickened. Hand on a faded snapshot of toddler David in her arms. Me too. Always was. Just men like us. We show it quiet. Revelation landed soft, years of folded newspapers. Averted interventions. The phone call post-fight. All threads in a tapestry of silent support. David hugged him fierce. Tom's back broad despite the frailty. Thanks, Dad, for standing behind. Word spread organic. Tom at the next GSA bake sale. Apron tied awkward. Selling his lopsided brownies with equality taste sweet stickers. Joseph's mom witnessed it via Facebook Live. Thawing enough for a coffee meet at the diner. Awkward spoons clinking in saucers. She gripped Joseph's hand. I was wrong. Scared. But you're my boy. Not full embrace, but fracture bridged a start. Holiday lights twinkled Milford anew. The town transforming grudging to gracious. Winter formal at the high school GSA takeover. Themes of love unchained. Saw David and Joseph in thrift store suits. Joseph's tie crooked. David's pocket square rainbow-stitched by Mia. Dance floor throbbed with inclusivity. Couples of all stripes swaying. Brody even with a guy from the debate team. Tentative steps. David's speech was brief. Mike passed. We fought. We fell. We rose. Together. Cheers drowned doubts. Joseph's kiss under mistletoe a vow renewed. Tongues tangling to hoots and applause. Spring unfurled verdant. College acceptances landing like confetti. David to Ohio State for graphic design. Joseph to the same for social work. Dorms adjacent in Columbus buzz. Summer packed boxes with nostalgia. Corey swims last. Tom's garage echoing laughs as they tuned the Civic for the haul. Riley visited once. Beers on the porch. Bridges built over old flames. You too? Endgame. He toasted. Clinking bottles. Graduation dawned crisp. Caps tossed to blue skies. Diplomas clutched like talismans. Valedictorian. Surprise nod to David. His words a manifesto. Outcast? Nah. Architects. We build worlds from wreckage. Joseph's whoop pierced the air. Tom's stand ovation from the bleachers a thunderclap. Post-ceremony. Family picnic sprawled. Ray grilling. Mia snapping pics. Even Principal Whitaker toasting awkwardly. Joseph's mom hugged David tentative. Take care of him. Always, David promised. But humanity's hue demanded shadow. A final test in July's haze. Tom's cough returned. Scans grim. Mets to the liver. Time measured in months. The Harlan house hushed. Chemo resuming. Joseph's hand steady on David's through vigils. We'll face it, he said. Packing Tom's favorite flannels for hospice. David nodded. Throat tight. Love's depth plumbed in grief's well. Tom's decline was dignified. Stories spun bedside. Mom's wild youth. David's first bike crash. Joseph's Corey confession overheard once. Good kid. That 1 inch. Last words. Rasped over morphine haze. Proud. Both of ya. Live loud. He slipped at dawn. Window open to birdsong. Hand in David's. Joseph's on the other side, bridge crossed. Funeral packed the Methodist church. Rain pattering like tears unshed. Eulogy David's. Voice cracking. He stood silent, but his love roared. Joseph's arm anchored him. Whispers of I'm here a lifeline. Graveside. Under oak boughs. They scattered Tom's ashes mixed with Mom's. Full circle. Dust to dust. Aftermath ached. But growth sprouted. David sold sketches online. Queer icons in bold lines. Funding a memorial scholarship at Harlan High. Tom Harlan Ally Award. Joseph's internship at a Columbus Pride Center channeled grief to advocacy. Their apartment. Cramped off campus. Echoed with life. Vinyl spins. Shared suppers. Nights where loss transmuted to lust. Bodies affirming presence. 1 year mark. Corey vigil blanket spread. Lanterns lit. Joseph's head on David's shoulder. He'd be proud, Joseph said, tracing stars. David kissed his temple. Of us? Hell yeah. Laughter bubbled. Free. Past's weight lightened. Future luminous. Years blurred to montage. Weddings in Ohio's rolling hills. 2018 legal. Joseph's vows my fighter. My home. David's my heart's compass. Careers bloomed. David's murals gracing city walls. Joseph's counseling saving small-town souls. Kids came via surrogacy. Twins with Joseph's curls and David's fire. Backyard barbecues echoing Tom's legacy. Milford revisited sporadic, hometown heroes now. GSA thriving. Water tower mural repainted yearly. Brody, reformed, owned the auto shop. Fist bumps with David over oil changes. Joseph's mom, graying graceful, doted on grandkids. Bible swapped for Breen Brown. In quiet moments, David traced Joseph's ring finger, silver band glinting. Outcast to this, he marveled. Joseph grinned, hazel eyes warm. Fought back. Together, sunset gilding their porch. Hands laced. Love story etched eternal. Dramatic. Emotional. Romantic. Humane. American as apple pie and endless roads. Where silence stands birth symphonies of the heart.